Um, there you go, and here we go. So we're just gonna start by finding a comfortable seated position. It's the most important part of yoga is just being present and arriving in this space and in this moment. So we're gonna come into a comfortable seated position. You know, if you're uncomfortable, obviously please adjust. I really like having my hips above my knees. I find that gives me the right sort of hip positioning, so not too much of an anterior posterior tilt in my pelvis. So I always sit up on a block like this guy, but if you have a towel or anything like that, please come into a comfortable seated position now. We're gonna close our eyes and start to listen to the body. So as we start to be in this moment and present in the space, just start to listen to your breath. So don't change anything about your breath yet. We can always change things later, but just start to listen to how you're breathing today. And notice in particular where the breath is entering and leaving the body. Good. And in particular, if we're breathing into our shoulders, so a lot of people, they breathe in and their shoulders rise and they get all sorts of tension in the back of their neck and their shoulders. And then when they breathe out, they let go of that tension and that stress. Maybe do one or two of those. As we breathe in, we're gonna just raise our shoulders up. And then as we breathe out, shoulders just go down and back as though your shoulder blades were sliding all the way down along your spine. We'll do that one more time. Inhale. And exhale, shoulders down. Good. And this time when you breathe in, try to breathe in through your belly. So letting that belly swell. And then as you exhale, give those internal organs just a little bit of a massage. Good. Inhale one more time. And exhale completely. Good, and this time on the inhale, we're gonna raise our arms up and over our heads. Inhale up. And then exhale, twist over your right side. Maybe your left hand comes to your thigh, and just find a gentle twist as we wake up the spine. As you inhale, maybe find a little bit of length all the way through the crown of your head. And as you exhale, maybe twist just a little bit deeper. Inhale one more time. Exhale, twist a little bit deeper this time. Good. And then inhale back to center. And exhale, we're going to find the second side. And again, as you inhale, you're just finding length along your spine. And what you do in doing so, exhale, is you give your body room to move. And you create the space necessary to comfortably twist a little bit deeper in this interesting opening pose. Good. Inhale brings you back to center. And exhale, hands down onto your knees, palms down. And then to wake up I forget which version we're bending the spine, but we're gonna bend the spine in almost like a cat-cow position. So as you inhale, you're gonna take almost like a cow position. So opening your heart up and forward, maybe finding a little bit of a back bend. And then as you exhale, just dome your shoulders and bring that spine back, creating as much space in front of you as you can. Good. Inhale back up to cat or cow. And exhale, cat. Good. One last time, cow. And exhale, cat. On the inhale, we'll come back up to neutral. And for the final spinal rotation, so I like to warm up the spine before we do anything else. The spine is so critical to the structure and integrity of every pose we do. So for the final motion, we're just going to raise on the inhale your left hand to the sky. And then find a little bit of a side bend or an opening, just twisting over the right side. Maybe your left palm faces the earth as it comes over. Breathing into that side body and enjoying that motion of the spine. Inhale back to center. Hands raised above you, and then exhale down to the second side. Good. We're going to inhale back to center, and then exhale, hands down to either side. So this is going to be a slightly slower practice, mostly because it's really freaking hot outside, and I don't like sweating. If you want to add vinyasas into your practice or handstands, please feel free to do so. I'm just going to skip all of that today, but I will leave us in downward dog as we go through our flow. So if you need a handstand, if you need a vinyasa, chaturanga, up dog, down dog, or what have you, please feel free to do so, but I'm not going to cue it. I'll just give extra space for down dog because it is too hot. It is too damn hot in here. Okay, we're going to come forward into a tabletop position. So in a tabletop position, we have our hands under our shoulders and our knees under our hips. And you normally do cat-cow in this position, but actually I wanted you to do a little bit more dynamic motion this time around. So you can roll your chest around, almost like you're exploring the inside of a barrel. So as you exhale, you sort of peek into a cat position. But you're going to roll all the way around into an inhale with the belly hanging low. And then exhale to cat. And inhale to cow. Good, and then we'll just do the same motion in the other direction. So exhale to cat, exploring the inside of that barrel with your chest and your spine. And then exhale to cat. And inhale to cow. And then exhale to neutral spine. And you're just going to start by bringing your left foot back, tucking your toes under on the floor, and opening up the calves with a little bit of a calf stretch. Maybe rocking back and forth. And just bringing a little bit of awareness to the back of the legs. This is the first time we've addressed this part of the body today, so go gently. Always go gently. Give your body the respect it deserves. And maybe even give it all the respect it demands. Good. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your right leg, your toes a little bit outside to give yourself a little bit of horizontal stability. You're going to bring your left foot so that the heel comes to the earth and just open up into a modified side plank. Right knee on the earth. Good, and maybe open your heart to the sky. And in doing so, check in with your shoulders and make sure they go down and back. So it's really tempting when you put a lot of weight into that shoulder joint for those shoulders to creep up towards the ears. But in doing so, you're inviting yourself to injury. That seems like a terrible invitation to take. Good, and then on the exhale, you're gonna bring your knee back to center and bring your left knee down and come all the way through, threading your left arm through the window of your right to find a little bit of a back and shoulder opener in this threaded needle pose. And if you need a little bit more, that right arm can come up to give you a little bit more of a stretch, but you're looking for a sensation in the back of the left shoulder blade. Good. And then inhale, that right hand comes back to center. You're going to push up. You're just going to open that left arm up to the sky for an inhale. And then exhale, set it down. Good. And then on the next inhale, we'll just take that right leg up and back, going through the whole exciting experience one more time on the second side. So opening up the back of the calves, maybe rocking back and forth. And then when you're ready, bring that left foot out. So your toes are tucked and you're just providing a little bit of stability so that you can safely and comfortably open up into a modified side angle pose, modified side plank pose. And once you're here, notice the sensation that comes from trying to open your heart to the sky. So you're not trying to over twist on your shoulder. Try and keep that shoulder stable and secure. It's really tempting to go too far and injure your rotator cuff. Don't do that. Don't injure yourself. I'd consider it a personal favor. Good, and then on the exhale, you're gonna thread the arm through the window of your left arm, bring both of your knees to the ground. And finding a little bit of an opening in the upper back. Maybe behind the right shoulder blade this time. Good, and then bringing that left hand back to a tabletop position, opening that right arm up to the sky one last time, and set it down. Good. Why don't we do wrist stretches real quick? So we're just going to bring the top of the left hand to the floor so that you can open up the top of your forearm. So if you were the floor looking at me, your hands are going to look like this. So the top of your left hand is pushing up against the floor so that you can open up these muscles on the top of your forearms. I'll just stay here for a moment. Good, and then flip to the second side. Right hand, top of the hand to the ground. Again, opening up the top of that right. Those wrist muscles, forearm muscles. Actually, most of the muscles that control your wrist are in your forearm. That's kind of the same thing. Good, and then come back to center. And then to open up the bottom of your forearms, what you're gonna do is you can either just take your hands, if your hands are planted on the ground like this, you can either just take your hands out like this. If this is enough, you can stay here. Or you can bring both of your hands back so that your fingers are pointed towards your knees. Good, and if you're just doing one side, you can do the other side now. If you're doing both sides, you can stay here, come back to center. Good, and then come back to center, fingers facing forward, and toes tuck. And you're just gonna lift your knees about an inch above the ground. This is my favorite way to wake up the core. We'll just be here for a few moments. That core activates and engages as we prepare for our first downward facing dog. And if you're ready for the downward facing dog, as though there was a rope attached to your tailbone, picking you up and lifting you towards the sky, you're just gonna bring your hips up and back and come on into your first downward facing dog. So downward facing dog is one of those interesting poses in yoga. It's the bread and butter pose, if you will. You can leave people in this pose for several breaths and quickly observe who is an advanced yogi and who is just early on in their practice. So in your first downward facing dog, I recommend you actually start by bending your knees and notice what a little bit of an exterior rotation of your arms does to your shoulders. So almost like you're wrapping your shoulder blades up and under your armpits, which is a little bit of a weird visualization, but works for me. And then once you've found that sensation in your shoulder blades, so that your arms are active and your shoulders are active and engaged, maybe straighten those knees and come into a slightly deeper expression of the pose. Or don't. So an advanced yogi isn't the one who does the pose in the most fancy, bendy, deepest way. An advanced yogi is somebody who knows how to listen to their body and who knows when not to do a pose. Good. On the inhale, you're going to raise your left foot up and back to a three-legged dog or a down dog splits pose. And then exhale brings that left foot forward in between your hands, planting that left foot on the ground. You're going to keep your ankle up this time and come into a runner's lunge. So almost like you're at a track start and you're ready to sort of go do the 100-meter dash. Good. And then from here, you're going to straighten the left leg and come into, I have no idea what this pose is called, but you're just going to straighten your leg coming from runner's lunge. So you're still folding over that left leg, but the left knee is now trying to get a little bit straighter. Good. And then if you're here, bring a little bit of awareness to the ankles as they touch the ground. So that right ankle should be engaged. And if you can, try and keep that right ankle above the right toe. So it's really tempting to just let it flop. And if you let it flop, that right heel just goes all the way back and you get this really deep bend in your right ankle. Try and bring a little bit of awareness and strength to the pose instead by bringing that heel up above the toes. Good. On the exhale, bend that left knee, come back into a runner's lunge. And then push back into a downward facing dog. Maybe flow through a vinyasa, maybe don't. It's really hot out. And if you're in a downward facing dog, check in with your wrists and your hands. So you should feel like your hands are grabbing the earth. And in grabbing the earth, what you do is you take some of the pressure out of the wrist joint and you distribute the weight across the knuckles of your hand. Good. Inhale, raises the right leg up to the sky. And exhale brings that right knee forward, right foot between the hands, and come up into a runner's lunge on the second side. And again, check in with that left ankle. That left ankle, if activated, actually gives you a lot of stability in these standing poses like Warrior Two and High Lunge and all those. And then exhale straightens that right leg, folding over the right foot. And we'll sit here for a moment, pretend that we're listening to a yoga instructor yammer on and on and on about physical cues that don't make any sense. Or maybe they do. Hopefully they do. And if they don't, hashtag yoga. Feel free to drop any comments and questions in the channel, and I'm happy to address them after class. Good. Exhale, bends the right knee. Inhale in runner's lunge. And then exhale, make your way back to downward facing dog. When you're here, maybe pedal out your feet, stepping from one heel, bringing one knee into the chest and then the other. And then from downward facing dog, you're just going to bring your left foot about 1 inch above the mat. So just using your hips almost to pick the left foot up. And then try and bring your left toes to your nose, I guess, without touching the ground, keeping the left foot straight. Good, and then set it down. We're just going to do the second side, so right foot about 1 inch above the ground. Then with a straight leg, you're just going to try and bring those toes to your nose. Your toes to your nose. Sounds like a Dr. Seuss book. Good, and then exhale, set it down. Inhale is going to bring your left foot all the way up and back. This time, bend your left knee and open your hips up to the side, getting a little bit more of an opening in your side bodies. You come into a pose colloquially known as fire hydrant pose, for reasons that are a mystery to all of us, I am sure. Good. Exhale brings that left foot forward in between your hands. And this time, inhale is going to bring you up into a high crescent lunge. So your right toes remain tucked. Left knee forward, arms above your head. Good. And in high crescent lunge, what you're doing is you're squeezing your legs together, and this activation gives you stability in the pose. Squeezing together the inside legs basically activates your lower abdomen, and activating the lower abdomen gives you stability all the way through your core, up through your chest, and all the way up through the fingers. Good. And on the exhale, you're just going to come forward without changing your legs. You're just going to come forward with your arms. For 3, for 2, for 1.5, 1.25, and just kidding. Set your arms down either side of your foot and make your way back to downward facing dog. Oh, who can tell that I'm practicing to be a dad? Ha! Can't wait for my 1-year-old to start talking. Good. And then if you're already in downward facing dog, you can join me by raising your right leg up to the sky on the inhale. And then exhale, bend that right knee, open your hips to the side, and find that fire hydrant pose on the second side. Good. On the next exhale, you're going to bring that right leg forward, placing the right foot between your hands. And again, come up into a high crescent lunge on the second side. So, interesting body cues in this position. You want your left ankle to be above your left toes. You want that left leg to be straight. So a lot of people come into this pose and their knee is bent. And a lot of times that comes from inflexibility or lack of strength. That's okay, but you sort of want to straighten that left knee if you can. And then as you straighten that left knee, you might get more sensation in the front of your left hip as you open up that psoas. Good. And then on the next exhale, you're just going to fold forward or come forward into a airplane-ish pose. And I'll count you down from 5 this time so that we don't have to go into fractions. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Set it down. Hands to either side of your foot as we push back into downward facing dog. Good. And come into child's pose for just a moment. So you're going to bring your knees wide, untuck your toes, hips sink back, and then you're going to bring your arms forward as you walk your heart to the earth. And take a moment here and embrace the grounding sensation that you get from being in contact with the earth. This is your home, this is your safe place. You can always come into child's pose. And if anyone complains, if you're in the middle of a grocery store and somebody says, you're not allowed to do child's pose here, you just send them my way. Good. And to get a little bit of a heart opener here, a little bit of an opening in the shoulders and the chest, what you're going to do is you're going to bring your hands together into prayer, bend your elbows, and see if you can bring your fingertips to touch the back of your spine. And as you breathe into this pose, find a little bit of length along the spine. This is an active pose. It's just a different shape. Good. And then you're going to bring your hands back to the earth, tuck your toes, and push up into downward facing dog. You're going to bring your left foot up to the sky, and then exhale brings your left foot forward between your hands. And this time what you're going to do is you're going to open to the right side. So you're going to take what looks like a wide-legged position so that your toes are pointed in, your heels are pointed out. So you're pigeon-toed just a little bit in a pose called star pose. Star pose, hands to the sky. And then exhale, forward fold with a flat back. Inhale, come back up to a flat back. And then exhale, forward fold a little bit deeper. And if you're in a forward fold, play with your balance. So notice where the weight is being carried in your feet. So is your weight primarily in your toes and the balls of your feet, or is the weight mostly in your heels? And if they're mostly in the heels, see if you can come forward just a little bit, shifting the weight into your toes, using your hands as a support so that you don't fall forward. That would be a weird way to fall, an embarrassing way to fall, at least for me. And notice how that changes the sensation on the inside of your legs. Good. And then from here, you're going to bend your right knee and come into archer's pose on the right side. And so archer's pose, your right foot remains forward, flat on the earth. Maybe you have a towel or a folded up mat underneath it. Your left foot rotates open so that your toes are pointed to the sky. And then if you want a little bit more, you can always try and get your shoulders underneath your knee and then use the force of your knee connecting to your shoulder to open your heart up to the left. But you don't have to do that. This is plenty. This is at least plenty for me. Good. And then without raising your hips too high to the sky, try and come to the second side. So I have to come up pretty high because I'm not that flexible, but you should be able to come to archer's pose on the second side. Good. And then on the next inhale, we're going to come back up to a wide-legged forward fold. And then inhale, come all the way up to star pose. And exhale, hands to either side. Maybe you bring your hands to your hips. So for a little bit of a heart opener in this position, you can, so let me see, am I in the light? Where is the light? Okay, I have no idea where the light is. Hopefully you can see me. What we're gonna do is clasp our hands behind our backs. Et voila. If this is uncomfortable, don't do it. You can also grab your opposite elbows or grab opposite forearms, like so, which I think can be seen. And you're just looking to open up the front of your chest. So we're in a wide-legged position still. Maybe your hands are clasped behind you. Maybe you're grabbing opposite forearms. Inhale opens your heart to the sky. And then without changing the shape of your upper body, forward fold. If this is uncomfortable, and it was for me for a very long time, what you can do is grab a towel so that if you're not interlacing your fingers, you have maybe a towel between your arms. That looks something like grabbing a towel, and then as you forward fold, you're getting that same opening in the heart and your shoulders without doing anything weird and painful. You can use a towel like this. Good, and then use the strength of your arms to pull yourself all the way up to a standing position. And let go of your arms, your towel, what have you. Good. Okay, all right. So horse pose, you're basically just gonna bring your heels in a little bit, bend your knees, and then use the strength of your arms to carry the weight of your upper body. We're going to be here for just a moment, hang out in this pose for a little while. I think this is a lovely pose to sit in. This is not goddess pose. So goddess pose has your arms up like this, and then it's a really strong, powerful pose. Horse pose, you want to put your weight of your upper body into your legs. You're looking to open up the inside of your legs just a little bit. And if you want to go a little bit deeper, you can flip the right palm, the right hand, so that the fingers go down instead of up. And basically just drop your right shoulder to the earth. Good. Inhale brings you back up to center. And exhale to the second side. Good. Inhale back up to horse. Take a cleansing breath here. Breathe in through your nose. And then just flutter your lips. Breathe out through your mouth as loud as can be. Or whatever awkward, weird sound is calling to you today. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. Good. On the inhale, we're going to straighten the legs. And then step forward to the front of our mat. And for figure 4 pose. Sorry, I'm totally blanking on names sometimes. What you're going to do is eventually, okay, so first, if this is uncomfortable in figure 4 pose, doesn't feel safe, you can always do this on your back. But what you're going to do is take your left foot, bend your left knee, and then place your left ankle on top of your right knee. So in this pose, the imagery that I want you to embrace is that the outside of the left foot is trying to grab onto the right knee. So this pull should feel really stable. You're basically using the outside of the left foot to hook around and hook onto the right knee. And then if you need a little bit more, you can always sit deeper into the pose. You could even forward fold if you wanted to, but I want you to pay in particular care to the outside, to the ankle grabbing around the knee. Good, and we're just gonna sit here for a few more breaths. So anatomically, what's happening when you rotate the ankle outwards as though you're grabbing the knee, what you're doing is you're activating the tibialis muscles and the outer hamstring. So the tibialis muscles are these muscles that are on the outside front of your left shin. They're also on the outside front of your right shin. And you're activating the outer hamstrings. And those muscles together form a girdle that protects your knee. Good. So you've been here for a little while. Maybe come up, put the left foot down, shake it out. Whew. Okay. So what you're doing by activating those muscles on the outside of your legs, the exterior hamstrings and the tibialis, you're shifting the twisting pressure, the force that's being exerted on the knee is being absorbed by, you're using the muscles to absorb that stress and that tension rather than dumping the twisting force into your bone and then whatever the soft thing is between bones, cartilage. Okay, second side. You're gonna bring that right foot up, bend the right knee, and then use the outside edge of that right foot to grab onto the outside edge of the left thigh. So when we say activate your ankles to protect your knee, this is essentially all we're doing, is we're activating the tibialis muscles and the outer hamstrings to basically form a protective girdle, a muscular girdle that takes the energy of the twisting motion. So the twisting motion is this, as the right knee comes further down, and we're taking the energy out of the knee joint and into the muscles surrounding the knee. Maybe sit deeper into the pose. You can even forward fold if you're feeling super bendy and flexible. But again, the important part here is to pay attention to what the ankle is doing rather than anything else in the pose. Good. You've been here for a little while, so we're just going to straighten up. Oh, shake out our legs. And we will come back to that activation in a little bit. I'll put you in pigeon in about 10 minutes. And you can experience for yourself the sensation that you get. Good. All right. If you weren't there already, we're going to come to the top of the mat. And then inhale, arms to the sky. And exhale, forward fold with a flat back. And we're just going to stay here for a moment, letting gravity do the work. As you let gravity pull the front half of your body forward, again, you're going to check in with the weight distribution of your feet and see whether you're sitting back into the heels or coming forward into the ball of the feet. If handstanding is something that you ever want to do, then coming forward onto the balls of your feet is basically one of the steps to getting there. You eventually come so far forward on your toes that the weight leaves your toes and come into your hands. But I'm not there yet, so, you know, practice every day. Good. Inhale brings you halfway up to a flat back. And then exhale, step your feet back and come meet me in a downward facing dog. Good. Inhale raises that left foot up and back. Exhale brings the left foot forward. You're going to come back up and do a high crescent lunge. With your left foot forward, the right knee active and engaged. Trying to keep that right leg straight if you can. And then on the exhale, you're going to open into a warrior two, and you do so by turning that right ankle so that the right heel comes to the earth. Left knee doesn't change position at all. Inhale brings you into a peaceful warrior, so you flip your left hand and open up that left side body. And then exhale, come forward, left elbow to left knee, and then find length all the way from your right fingertips all the way to your right toes for an extended side angle pose. And again, you're using the connective force between your left elbow and your left knee to open your heart to the sky. This is the important part of the pose. It's not how far forward your hands go. It's how much twisting and opening motion you can introduce into your side body, because that's really where the benefits of the pose are. Good. Inhale brings you back up to center. Or exhale in my case. Then you're going to straighten that left foot and come into triangle pose. Straighten that left foot, come as far forward as you can until that left hand comes to the left leg, and you open your right arm to the sky. And then exhale, bend your left knee, come into warrior two. And then on the next exhale, you're going to windmill your arms to the ground, flow through a vinyasa, or just come meet me in downward facing dog. Oops, I said I wasn't going to do vinyasas today. What a liar. Ah, thank God it's only a practice. Good. Next, we're going to raise that right leg up to the sky. And then exhale, brings that right foot forward, coming up into high crescent lunge on the second side. And before we move anywhere forward, make sure that left leg is active and engaged. So that left leg should be straight, the ankle should be above your toes, and in doing so, you basically put more opening force on the left psoas. It's the muscle that goes basically in front of the right hip, pelvis area. And then on the next exhale, twist your left foot down, open up into warrior two. Inhale, flips that right hand up to the sky, come up into peaceful warrior. And then exhale, side angle pose on the second side. Good. Inhale brings you back up to warrior two. And then we'll straighten that right leg and come into Trikonasana or triangle pose on the second side. Good. Inhale brings you back up to a warrior two. And exhale, windmill your arms down. Maybe flow, maybe don't. And meet me in downward facing dog. Good. Come down to your knees for just a second to a seated position. Sit back on your heels. So for pigeon, there are a couple of variations that are super important to explore here. So we're eventually going to come into pigeon. If pigeon is uncomfortable, don't do it. In particular, if you find pigeon to be uncomfortable, you might come onto your back and come into a reclined pigeon. So in a reclined pigeon, you're on your back. You take one knee, foot to the ground, and then the other foot you bring into that same figure four position we were in earlier, and then maybe you reach through the window of your legs to grab your knee, and you're basically just looking to open up that hamstring while practicing the active engagement of your ankle, making sure that you're protecting your knee joint. If you injure your knee, then the rest of this practice is for naught, so, don't do it. All right, so if you are doing traditional pigeon, we're still in downward facing dog, but we're gonna push back up into a downward facing dog. And we're going to stay in pigeon for a few moments. So as we enter this pose, just make sure you come in comfortably and that this is a position you can sustain. So raise your left foot up to the sky, and then bring your left foot behind your right hand, left knee behind your left wrist. So in pigeon, you're basically bringing your left foot forward. So activating, grabbing the earth with the outside of your left foot as you open up the hamstring and outer hip. If your hips, if you can't reach the ground, which a lot of us can't, I cannot, I typically use a block and I put it right behind my tuchus to give me a little bit of support in this pose, but you can use a wrapped up towel, a cat, a friendly neighbor, or a roommate to provide a little bit of support underneath that left hip. And then once you're here, you can do a number of things. So you can use your right toes to try and pull you a little bit deeper into the pose if you need that activation. If this is plenty, then we'll just come forward and forward fold with your arms in front of you and come into a pose known as sleeping pigeon. And as we get comfortable in this pose, know that you're actively engaging muscles all throughout your body. That ankle is still doing its job to protect your knee. You're not falling asleep here. Every muscle should be firing in some way or another. Not every muscle, but the muscles that we're using today. Good, maybe you bring your forehead to the earth, letting your third eye chakra touch the ground. Your third eye chakra, or your vagus nerve. It's the nerve that promotes or dissuades fight or flight from the body and brings you into a more restful pose. And we're just going to be here for about 30 seconds longer. So get comfortable in this pose. Now that we've been in it for a moment or two, maybe you settle into a slightly deeper variation. If you're uncomfortable, maybe you come out of it and come into a modified position. Good, and then your arms start to come back up, come towards your legs as you open your heart. You tuck your right toes, and then come into a downward facing dog. And maybe just paddle out your knees a little bit, paddle out your legs, get a little bit of blood flowing through that knee before we come into the second side. The second side, you're gonna raise your right leg up to the sky, and then exhale brings that right knee to right wrist. And again, activate the right ankle by rotating it outwards, almost like you're gripping the earth with the outside edge of your right foot. And that's going to be what protects your knee, that lovely knee, in this position. Good, and then if you're not there yet, you can forward fold into a sleeping pigeon. Folding over your right shin, so you don't want to come over your right knee or over your right ankle. You kind of want to land in between. Breathing into the parts of your body that require attention in this moment. Bring some awareness to where it's needed most. Good, and then on the next inhale, we're gonna bring our hands back up. Tuck our toes and push back into the final downward facing dog of the evening. Well, at least the last one that you're gonna have with me. Notice how your body feels different in this moment. Take an inventory of what new aches and pains you've introduced and what It feels looser and more open than it did at the beginning of practice. Exhale brings your knees to the earth. Keep your toes tucked for just a moment as we come into my favorite pose of all time. Turns out all of these poses are my favorite, but this is my double favorite, screaming toe. So your toes are tucked and you're looking to open basically the bottoms of your feet. So if this is uncomfortable, you can bring your hips above your knees. But as you sit further back and down, you put more pressure to open up the bottoms of your feet. So if this hurts, don't do it. You're looking to find opening in the bottoms of your feet rather than pain in your joints or bones. That's no good. Pain in your knees and bones, your joints and bones, that's no good. We'll be here for a little while, so just close your eyes and relax into this pose. Maybe find a little bit of calm in a pose that's just a little uncomfortable. And know that it's okay to be uncomfortable so long as you honor your body. Good. Inhale brings you back up onto your knees. Untuck your toes. Maybe tap the tops of your feet to the earth just to get a little bit of blood flowing through your feet again. Oh, that feels amazing. And then we're going to make our way onto the mat. So back on the mat. We have time for one more back bend. So I'll guide you through bridge pose. That's what this is called. But if full wheel is in your practice or something else in your practice, or fish is calling to you, feel free to take that. I won't cue it, but you are certainly welcome to. So to prepare for bridge, you're going to bring your heels close to your bum so that your fingers can touch your ankles. And then as though you are peeling your spine off the earth, you're going to take a posterior, I think this is a posterior tilt. You're going to tilt your pelvis so that you're peeling your spine off the earth. And then you're going to use the force of pushing your heels into the earth to pull your back further and further up until maybe you roll onto the tops of your shoulders. It's super important whenever you're putting weight anywhere near your neck that you do not turn your head. Please don't turn your head. It leads to all sorts of spinal injuries. And nobody needs that drama in their life. Good, and if you've rotated onto the tops of your shoulders, you might take your hands underneath you and clasp them. Good, and then if your hands are clasped, unclasp them, and then just vertebra by vertebra, unroll your spine onto the earth and go slowly. Good, we're gonna do this one more time. So just maybe windshield wiper your knees back and forth. And then when you're ready, find your heels firmly rooted in the earth as you unroll, no, you peel your spine off the ground. Good, and then release your hands if you have them clasped. Unroll your spine to the earth. Bring your feet wide and knock your knees. This is a great pose to bring a little bit of sensation to the outside edge of your hips. Feels amazing. And then for a final twist, you're just gonna bring your knees up and bring your shins parallel to the earth. And then twist so that your knees go off to the right. And your left arm opens off to the left. You can use your right hand here on the top of your left thigh if you want to A little bit more sensation in this twist, or you can have your hands open into a T. Maybe look over your left shoulder. Good, and then on the inhale, using your core muscles, you're gonna bring those legs back up to center, leaving your arms open into a T as you bring your knees over to the second side. Good, and then you're gonna bring your knees back up to center on the inhale. And then exhale, legs lay long, hands out to the side, and let go for the final pose, Shavasana. So Shavasana, such a wonderful pose. Let go of your breath. Don't focus on anything. Close your eyes and enjoy this sensation of the earth holding your body and supporting it in every way. We're going to be here for 3 minutes. So settle in and get comfortable, and I'll give you a cue when we reach the time. Good, and just as you let go moments ago, maybe start to bring a little bit of awareness to your body as you gently come back into this space, into this place. And maybe bring some sense of calm or wonder with you. Bring something with you into this lovely world. Take something from the mat, from your practice, as you bring awareness into your fingers and your toes, your wrists and your ankles, those ankles that we worked so hard today. Those knees, those lovely knees and elbows, bring some sensation back into those. And then as your body integrates with your shoulders and your hips, start to roll over to one side, using your arm as a pillow. And take a moment in this position of rebirth before using your arm strength to push up into a seated position, eyes closed. And then you bring your hands to prayer whenever you get here. There's no rush. This isn't a race. Or if it is, I'm totally screwed. Good. The light and glory and love that is in each and every one of you is seen, is felt, is heard, and appreciated. I hope you see the same in me. I love you all. Namaste. Okay, and then close the recording.